Hey friends, welcome to Elevated You with me, Kay Cote. Think of me as that friend in your corner helping you to befriend your inner bully. What is an inner bully? You know, that naysaying voice that's holding you back from reaching your dreams and goals. I'm here to help you break through the lies, self-doubt, and fears that hold you back so you can reach the truest version of yourself. On this show, I share real life stories, impactful conversations, and resources to help you live an elevated life. Today's guest is a fellow yogi and fitness instructor, Mak Quist. Laura has been on the cover of fitness magazines and helps people renew their bodies and mind with her proven Yoga Fit method. When I first met Laura, I knew we'd be friends. We had amazing conversations around fitness and wellness, and now I'm excited to share this conversation with you. Laura and I are here to talk about 3 ways we can elevate our mind and body through resetting, reshaping, and renewing. I'm so excited you're here with me today. Now let's get elevated. Like my power shoes are my pink leather Michael Kors, and yeah, you would love them.
I used to have these great pink like slides and they were and I had them forever because they were like this kind of shade of pink, but they kind of were like a little bit of a pearly with it. And I loved those shoes so much. And
Oh,
sigh, we had to part with them one day.
oh, the worst is saying goodbye to your
No,
favorite shoes.
we had to make you stand up taller like you're Superwoman or something, right?
Yes, and it's like when the duct tape just gives out and you've taped them one too many times and it's just not gonna take another dance floor.
There just is no more.
Oh, it's just such a sad day to see those go. You're like, the comfort you gave me when I was getting down on that dance floor.
Oh, the steps we've had together.
Yes. How many Dougies have we done? And how
Exactly.
many Cupid shuffles did we
The moments.
Oh, well, Laura, this is a treat. I love the kickoff to this already. Just like the energy. I just love the fact that the universe brought us together, and when we sat next to each other at Podfest it was almost like speed dating, but it
Yes,
was
yeah,
speed
that table.
podcasting,
So hi.
right? And it was a lot. I remember like you and I sat next to each other. I was like, you had a glass of wine, you were bubbly and fun. I knew you were into fitness. I was like, okay, we're gonna be friends.
I was like, oops, maybe no one else has one. I'm just gonna enjoy this.
No, I did. I think I asked you. I was like, oh, where'd you get that? Because I didn't get one.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, what a fun time at Podfest and chatting and get to know you a little more. And
It's like I think there's an energy. There's some people that just have that a vivaciousness. You're in health and wellness. You're doing yoga. You're doing all sorts of things. You've been on magazine covers. Like, girl, you've got some things rolling for you. And I'd love to hear a little bit about how you got started in the health and wellness field.
yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I will say it's funny when I go back and I think about it. My dad had told me this story, I think it was like eighth or ninth grade. And I grew up in Michigan, and he's like, and this was in the 80s, early 80s. And so he's like, they have this like really neat thing. People can get a job in California, those crazy Californians, that where they teach people to exercise. And I was like, what? Because I was a gymnast growing up, and I'm like, oh, that sounds pretty cool, right? He's like, yeah, I think they call it like a personal trainer or something. And so it's like you get your own coach to show you how to exercise. He's like, can you believe that? I'm like, huh. And it must have like had this little seed that grew with me. And so I got a scholarship for gymnastics in college, and I started out in undergrad as a business, but I really wanted to take this anatomy class because I knew they worked on cadavers. And I thought that would be so cool to see like the actual muscle fibers and how it's all attached, and just not like the grotesqueness of it, but just the fascination of how our body actually works together. It's just amazing to me. So to take this anatomy class, I had to switch my major to exercise science. And then I was able to get into this class. And I will tell you, I probably studied more for this one class than I did for the rest of my 4 years combined. But it was amazing. And I was like, okay, yeah, this is what I want to do. I need to learn more about how the body works. And it's just so fascinating to me. So I got both undergrad and graduate degrees in exercise science. And then I moved down to Atlanta, Georgia, and I had started in one job just so I could have a job when I moved down there, but then I got right into personal training again, and so that was awesome. So I was working for myself, and that's also when I got started into competing in fitness because I had one of my dance coaches there. He's like, because I had auditioned for. So I was living in Atlanta, so both the Falcons and the Hawks, which is our football and our basketball teams, and I made it to the final cuts each time. And they're like, "Well, you're a little too muscular," and this is before I even started, competing and or anything like that in fitness. So I didn't feel like I was too muscular. And I was like, "Ah." And so one of my dance coaches, who was also one of the judges, he's like, "Girl, you just need to go into fitness." I'm like, okay, fine. I'll go into fitness and we'll see what this whole fitness thing is. And so competing in fitness, then I won nationals within that first year, which qualifies you for a pro card. So I competed in the IFBB fitness for many years, which was so much fun. And I got to do the major shows like your Arnold Classics and the Olympias and travel overseas and competed in Europe and ranked top 10 in the world. And then I knew there was going to be a point where I was going to have to retire from fitness, and I wanted to see what could that next chapter be. And I had kind of fallen into this clothing line, and I had a partner in the business, and so we were importing from Brazil. Then we kind of had a little bit of a creative difference. And so within 6 months, we kind of separated and kind of went our own ways because she wanted to do a different route and a little bit more conservative. But me competing, I wanted to, do something more with magazines at that time. And, from competing, then I already had the connections to like all your muscle and fitness and oxygen and hers and like all your top fitness magazines. So I was able to use all these bright colors and combinations and stuff. So I'd, give them to the stylist to use. They would send them to my website so people could shop, and just working on a lot of sponsoring the different fitness and wellness trade shows. So then I had my clothing line for about 10 years, and then moved out to LA. And that was great because then I got to continue doing personal training. And I kept the clothing line for another probably like 4 or 5 more years after that. And we actually opened a store in Manhattan Beach, which was fun. So it was like all bikinis and fitness wear. And then we sold that like about 2 years after. And then we were trying to get ready to have kids. And this is a whole nother long journey. But so I met my husband in LA, worked on trying to have kids together. And then voila, we did get to have two healthy boys, thankfully. And then we moved up to Seattle in about 6 years ago now. So I guess I've lived in all four quadrants of the states, the Midwest, the South, the Southern California, and now in the Pacific Northwest.
That's amazing. What a cool story. Like, I love that. Like, I was so curious because I saw your work. I know you and I had connected, but we never had a chance with all the hustle bustle to really sit down and chat. And so I love hearing your story for the first time, especially how, what I really love about it is you, like you said, you've lived all over, you've had various different aspects of your career, yet you've kept it around that same fitness wellness wheelhouse. And I think it's so cool how you diversified with every stage of life you were in and were able to adapt. That is so cool. And that you kept your career alive with adaptability and functionality and just like knowing where you're at in life. So that's really admirable. I really like that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's interesting. You think about you like kind of reminisce back on the different chapters of life and how they've impacted you and kind of build you up into like where you are today, right?
100%. I really see that. And that's been like a huge part of my journey too with health and wellness. I feel it's like, it's been a life changer just to get back into that. In my early 20s, I just was like, I kind of hit a point of bad diet and bad birth control I was on was messing with me.
Mm.
And I just one day stopped taking it, and I was like, I can't do this anymore. And I just like revamped. I started going to the gym. I got into dance fitness, Zumba.
I did a little Zumba.
I love my Zumba. And so like I feel you, and it's so important, and one thing you talk about that really strikes my attention, and it's a hot topic today right now, is the uh hormones and women and resetting their hormones. How do you bring that into your fitness and wellness practice?
Yeah, there's obviously every woman is individual, and when you start working it with a one-on-one client, but I will say there are a few common threads that we can look at. One, over stress and having a high cortisol, high adrenaline. Um, so overworking your adrenals. Those are two things that I really like to work on. I feel like those are a little bit of an easier kind of reset.
Hmm.
Um, you know, because typically either um, somebody can be overtraining or over cardioing at this.
Guilty.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And it's so important. The more we age, the more important it is to add that strength training. And I'm not even one to say that you have to like lift like 30 pounds or 50 pounds, some crazy amount, because your body might not even feel good doing that, but it has to be enough where you're getting fatigued and
Hmm.
from the muscles in a controlled setting, right? But because you have to maintain that muscle. And what happens is a lot of time, whether we end up running out of time or our schedules have taken us and or kids or life just changes a little bit, and then that weight training kind of diminishes in our workout program, or we haven't really been doing it before, so we don't have that the muscle mass, and our bodies still start changing. So adding that weight training in a couple days a week can make a huge difference, because you might not burn as many calories as you do if you're doing a cardio workout. However, the benefits of having more muscle, you will end up having more energy throughout the day. So you will actually be burning more calories. Your energy will be much more sustainable
Hmm.
throughout the day. So you'll actually be able to do more and feel better doing it with that kind of with adding just a few days of weight training in there. And honestly, even 30 minutes does so much.
I love that you said that we don't have to be like Hulk lifting. Like, we can just, I actually started doing a strength yoga. Like, I'm doing a pretty intense vinyasa. I'm in yoga teacher training right now. And I just adding that 4 or 5 times a week. I feel stronger. I feel like how the moves are presented, it's a very strength building yoga. So it's like we can work with things like body weight or light weights, or we can lift heavy depending on what our desires are. So I love that you added like find what works for your body and what you like to do.
Actually, yes. And that's really a huge key, is like finding what you really enjoy, because I always love this when I get this question when somebody's starting, "Are you going to make me run?" I'm like, "Do you like running?" They're like,
Exactly.
"No." I'm like, "Well, no, I won't do that." I'm like, for me personally, I'm not a runner, but I would never force somebody to try and do something. There are so many other things, and especially with life today and all these new kind of trendy workouts, there's
Hmm.
different ways we can get our cardio in. Unless you love running, I would never force somebody to do that. So yeah, there's a lot of options out there. So
I love that. Like, yeah, my first love was dance fitness, and that's what really made me think, outside the box, or think like, hey, I don't have to run. Now I run, but now I mix it up. The idea of resetting our hormones is huge in this component of adding strength to build muscle.
yes.
And I'm sure that goes into the next part that I want to ask you about is women and reshaping their bodies. How I'm guessing that's more than just physically reshaping. I
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and so obviously our training is one way that we're going to reshape our bodies. The second component is to reshape what we're putting onto our plates. And again, coming back to getting the protein in, whether you enjoy animal protein or not, you still need some form of protein. So we can work with it if you're vegan. We can work with it if you're chicken and fish and turkey, or if you want to have the occasional red meat, that's fine too. So we got to kind of figure out what works for your body. And then another cup or two of vegetables. And then we have clean carbohydrates. So, and kind of balancing that out. Um, and then we'll see, usually I'll talk with them and see, okay, well, what has been your normal food routine? Are you eating throughout the day, or are you trying this fasting thing? We'll see what works. We'll look at your macros to see what you're eating or what you're getting into your body. What's a couple ways we can add in something versus, okay, we got to take these all out?
Mhm.
How can we add in something more to give you better energy? How can we add in just a little more protein? How can we add in a little more water?
Mhm.
Some of the basics. And usually I like to work with somebody on their strength part. So whether they're yoga or their strength training first for about that first month, just to kind of get into the routine. And I tell you what, every time we start out with just focusing on that, within that second, third week, I love this part. And when I have a client, guess what? Everyone had cookies last night, but I didn't want to. And I was okay with it because I knew I had to come work out, and I'm doing all this workout. So I do not want to eat that cookie. I'm like, see, that's great.
Oh, I love
You
that.
know, it's like sometimes you just get this little click, and you can just make the choice on your own. And so, and not to say that you could never have a cookie, but hey, great for you for making that choice, especially in an environment where everyone else was, and you're like, yeah, no, I'm good. And you didn't feel deprived. You felt actually empowered.
100%. I love that. And I love that the people like you said, your clients and the people you work with find that on their own. Like it's just like getting the spark of the healthy
Yeah.
lifestyle because then you want more of it because it's like that becomes the dopamine. The wow, I am killing it today. I want to be healthy. I want to choose the XYZ over the cookie or enjoy the cookie and not be mad at myself too.
Yeah.
Have both sides. And I think that's so huge. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, like, reshaping the body also includes kind of reshaping in your mindset as well. So,
Mhm.
understanding the difference between enjoying the treat, having a treat, versus deciding, I don't need that today. Or, okay, great.
Mhm.
And I'm going to enjoy it.
Oh, the mindset is so huge. I love that you talk about resetting mindsets
Yes.
and like starting from that baseline and it just is like a beautiful ripple effect from there.
Right. And as women, we've had so many different weight, um, body things growing up. Even if we had a wonderful, loving environment, there's no way that anyone could have escaped it, really.
Hmm.
And so, depending on what we've taken with us as we've grown up, um, I was judged in gymnastics, and after gymnastics, I'm like, I'm never gonna do something where I'm judged again. And of course, what did I do? I go back into fitness where I'm judged. I'm like, then it's judged even more on your physique, and I'm like, and then after that, I was like, I am done competing, and I was so happy to have found yoga because
Yeah.
it's one of those movements where once I understood it, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. On the days that I feel super strong and powerful, I can do handstands and hold it as long as I want. Or on those days where I'm tired and not feeling as powerful, I can take a break in a child's pose and then join back in. And you know
Hmm.
what? It's okay.
It's
What?
totally okay.
I'm like, first time for everything.
Right? That's how I felt. That is so true. And it took me like so long in my yoga practice to like use my blocks. I was had this like aversion, like I don't want to use my blocks because that's weak. And it's like totally
It's totally
not weak.
right.
Yeah. It
You
helps your body
to get into
progress.
that form, to progress,
Yeah.
to actually feel what you should be feeling, and to be able to focus on the openness or the length or whatever the movement is. But it's a strength, not a weakness.
100%. And I think that is like huge for people to that's like a really big takeaway, elevating our mindsets when it comes to our health and well-being
Yes.
because one way is not for all,
Hmm.
and give yourself grace.
Please, yes.
It's so huge. It's
It
so huge.
really is.
And so, Laura, you're doing amazing things, and I just love seeing what you bring to your community and what you brought to Podfest. And when we were doing inversions and like just making a fun show, I just absolutely love your energy. What is next for you? What have you got going on?
Next up, I have, well, actually, I am teaching yoga in Mexico in April, and I'm really looking forward to that, bringing the whole family down. And then I'm looking forward to, I'm looking into retreat locations for next year.
Okay.
So there's one place I'm thinking of in Costa Rica, and I'm just trying to find out a couple different places because I've always wanted to host some retreats. And so now with the kiddos getting a little bit older, next year is going to be the year. So I'm starting to lay those dates out.
Well, hit a girl up if you need some fellow yoga instructors
Yes.
or if you need anything, because I'm all about that life. That's so cool. I absolutely love that you're doing that. That's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, super excited.
Well, I think there's going to be some listeners that would love to check into your work and your retreats. So, how can people connect with you?
Well, you can find me at theyogafitlife.com, or you can connect with me on Instagram at Laura Mac FitLife, and that's MAK, or you can check it out on Instagram also at the Yoga Fit Life.
I'll definitely get those linked up in the show notes. And Laura, this has been so much fun. And I am so thankful you were on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.